Hey there, you're tuned into MEA Worldwide. I'm your host, Elena Jordan, and today I am sitting down with Emily Swallow.
Hello.
So excited to talk to you because you have played some of my favorite characters.
Oh, do tell.
From Supernatural to now, of course, the Armorer.
Yes.
So, wow. The success of The Mandalorian has just been completely unprecedented. Were you expecting this as big a reaction when...
No. I mean, the whole thing has just been such a crazy ride because I shot my stuff over a year ago, and it was so secretive even for those of us who were working on it. And so I kind of knew like how I fit into the greater picture, and I felt like the scripts were really good, and Jon Favreau is just such an incredible director and such an incredible team leader, like the way he brought everybody together. But no, there's just no, I mean, I think if I had expected this kind of response, like that would have been so egotistical because it's just surpassed anything that I could have imagined.
And your character in particular has just become such a fan favorite. And I know that you can't really confirm or deny if you'll be back, but I will say there are so many people on the internet that are begging to see more of the Armorer in season 2. So
I want to see more of her. Yeah, she makes me feel cooler than any other character I've ever played.
You've played some pretty badass characters, though. Even now, SEAL Team, kind of the alpha female on an entire group of alpha males. What is it like for you playing these strong characters and now being able to have the opportunity to have these strong characters presented for women that may not have been as accessible, decades before?
I mean, it's a huge gift, and it's so wonderful to get to see. I mean, I feel like with the 3 characters that are sort of in my orbit right now, the Armorer and Natalie on SEAL Team, and then Amara on Supernatural, they're all these strong women, but in such different ways. And one of the things that's a gift for me is I always get to learn from my characters. And so, like, from Natalie, I'm learning a lot about, like, how to have a very quiet, calm strength, because she is definitely an alpha female. She feels incredibly comfortable with alpha males, but she, kind of similar to the Armorer, like, she doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room. She doesn't need to assert her authority with a lot of aggression. She sort of trusts that she knows what she knows and what she knows is good, and other people could benefit to listen. And that's definitely a contrast to Amara, who does not assert her authority with patience and subtlety. She just smites people.
I mean, fair. I know that a lot of us Supernatural fans, though, were also getting a little impatient that we were wondering, are we going to see her come back? And then, of course, having you return to play your character in the final season.
Way, too.
Such a cool way. So how did that come to be? How did you find out that you were going to be coming back to reprise that role for the final season? And kind of what was the experience like?
Yeah, I hoped that I would come back it was a complete shock to me at the end of season 14 when I found out that I'd been hanging out in Reno, which I thought was just hilarious because, one of the things that I still hope we get to see more of and that I really wanted to find out more about with Chuck and Amara was, we got to see like the epic conflict and like all these emotions that have been buried so deep for so long. But I also wanted to see just like the stupid sibling rivalry.
Yeah. Those are some of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
Even just like when she's like doing yoga and he's chatting and she's like, no.
Rob is just like, in real life, Rob is the most charming, lovely, delightful person to work with. But we have so much fun, like ribbing each other as Chuck and Amara. And we were doing all of that behind the scenes during season 11, but it was never in any of the scripts. So when I heard that I'd been hanging out in Reno, but I still didn't find out for a while after that they wanted to bring me back. Wow. So I was just sort of waiting and hoping. And, it's a show that I felt like it made sense for me to come back because Chuck is such a powerful force this season. But it's also a show that's had so many storylines and so many people who are significant for a moment and then they're not, and the logic changes and all that. So I just crossed my fingers.
And the fans for Supernatural are so devoted as
They're
well.
incredible, yeah.
Have you had any interesting fan interactions?
I definitely have. I've been doing conventions since I was on the show in season 11 all over the world. And it's incredible to me. The thing that's the loveliest about it is seeing how the fans all support each other and what an incredible community it is. But there's definitely been some interesting interactions. I have seen tattoos of myself on people, and that's,
that's cool.
An interesting thing. And I've heard, like, people have written songs and sent them to me, and I definitely don't get the level of excitement that Jensen and Jared get, but that's okay. I'm very happy.
Say, especially now though with the armor, there's so many people who are sending in. I know you posted some fan art as well.
Some incredible fan art, yeah.
So that I think is really, really cool. Just how much this character means to so many people, and this iconic helmet that is now you just see it and you're like, oh, that's a badass woman that I love. So for you though, I heard that wearing the helmet kind of had its own obstructions. You can't really see in it, right? But you had done a lot of mask work in theater.
Yes.
And you had from Tisch School of the Arts to Broadway to everything under the sun. So do you feel like that theater background helped you with a role that was like this one, even though more reserved, still theatrical in many ways?
Yes, it definitely did. And it was so fun to get to tap into that for something on television and something on camera. And that was an interesting aspect of it, because I've done mask work before and a lot of theater, but taking that kind of theatrical nature, but making it of the scale necessary for on camera was really cool. And we were finding the language of these, of the Mandalorian characters, like as we were shooting those first few episodes, and just sort of having to test out, like, and recognizing that the subtlest movement could say something huge. So if we were going to do that, we had to mean it. But yeah, I was really glad that the armor moved slowly and deliberately, because I had like no peripheral vision. I had a tinted visor in my like cave that's already very dimly lit, and so I was constantly running into things. Those sequences where I'm like forging the weapons, like the actual shooting of those, I'd be like trying to pick up the tongs, but I couldn't look down and I couldn't feel anything, and I dropped stuff. Like the armor has some awkward moments when people aren't looking.
Well, on screen you would have no idea because she's just so calm, collected.
Thank goodness for editing.
Deliberate.
Yeah.
Now, of course, another character everybody's losing it over. Baby Yoda, a.k.a. the child. Not really Baby Yoda. We know it's not really Baby Yoda, but still. Did you ever get to play with the puppet on set? Be honest.
I didn't get to play with it. But yeah, the first time I saw it, I mean, you know that you're looking at a puppet, but that doesn't compute with your brain because it's just so adorable. And so I was thrilled that when they brought him in that little bag for the scene that I got to have with it, I just wanted to snuggle it.
So you can confirm Baby Yoda is just as cuddly in person as he is on camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I heard that you also got to have a pretty awesome moment on set when George Lucas himself came to surprise John for his birthday, and then ended up kind of just recalling different stories with everyone on set. What were some of the stories that stood out to you that he told?
The thing that stood out to me the most was just taking in the fact that here's this man who created this universe for us, 40 years ago now, with filmmaking technology that was a lot more limited. And the stories have taken on so many different forms. And now, he was standing in the middle of, we were working on, I think, 2 different sound stages, and he was standing on the sound stage that had like the big green screen and Mando's ship. And just, he was just kind of stream of consciousness telling these stories. And it was incredible to me, like, to imagine what it must be like to be him and to know that he's created this, to see how the stories have evolved. And I think one of the things that's so beautiful about that world is that no matter what the technology, no matter whether it's animated or there's puppets or whatever, like the heart of the story is, I think, what brings brings everybody back to it over and over and over again. And I hope that he was really satisfied watching The Mandalorian, because I feel like that heart and that, the hero's journey and where that takes us emotionally, all of that is packed in there.
I would say, considering it is one of the most successful shows ever, I think he probably felt pretty good about it. Yeah. That's incredible. And I know, too, that going into it, you were a Star Wars fan, even though you weren't even sure that you were doing a Star Wars movie until you were actually there.
Secretive, yeah.
But do you have a favorite Star Wars film, or favorite Star Wars character, and has that changed since you've been introduced to the universe?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with those 3 original movies. And so I had like Ewok stuffed animals when I was a kid, and of course tried to do the Princess Leia hair and all that. And Leia was always, of course, someone that I looked up to. But there was a lot that I have since learned that I didn't know, because I had followed all the movies, but I hadn't gotten into like the Clone Wars and all of these incredible animated series. And thank goodness for Dave Filoni, because he was sort of our like encyclopedia on set, and we could ask him questions about like, okay, well, in the Mandalorian culture, like how would this fit in, and do I need to think about this? And he immediately had an answer, because he just has such an incredible love for it, and he's just got volumes and volumes of information in there, and he can recall it at a moment's notice. And so I've definitely learned a lot more in the past like year than I think I had collected in my life thus far. And it's just one of the coolest things too about hearing the response of the fans from this is hearing like what other people's experience has been growing up with Star Wars, and what part of the stories they connect to, and what connections they make. Because there's some like obvious connections in The Mandalorian to some of the movies, but then there's things that are a lot more obscure that may or may not be a connection, and it's really cool to experience people's imaginations and to see the connections that they do make, and the things that get them excited, and the things they want to see more of.
What were some of your favorite Easter eggs that were snuck in? Because there was a bunch. I mean, going down from like even the games that they're playing to what may or may not be Boba Fett hanging in the background. Like,
I love that. I mean, that's one of them. Definitely the ice cream maker that held all the Beskar. I mean, that was just incredible. Because it's ridiculous when you go back and you watch that movie and you see this guy running with the ice cream maker. I'm trying to think. What else?
There are also some new things that we're not even quite sure, like when you're talking about how's your signet's been revealed, then giving the whistles. I mean, we know that there's a whole now backstory of this lore that even diehard fans are now finding little things that we're like, we don't know what that means yet. We have to know what it means. Give us more.
Well, I can't tell you how giddy I was when I found out I got to say something about the Jedi. The fact that the armorer knows that this creature is part of a very powerful race of sorcerers, but she's not even quite sure where he fits in. And I think one of the things I loved is that she, even though she says these sorcerers were kind of an enemy race, she has such respect for this creature and the fact that he is a foundling that he's not an enemy. And I just so respect and appreciate the respect that she has for the order of things and for the code of the Mandalorians. And I mean, I think basically like for goodness and justice.
I mean, the fact that she's so loyal that she refuses to leave, like that. I mean, it's part of what makes this character just so incredible as well. Because they are so secretive and so kind of on top of it, I know it's a little difficult, but were you able to snag any souvenirs to keep too?
No.
No?
I don't have anything. I mean, I have my memories. But that's it. No souvenirs.
I feel that's fair enough, because there's some amazing memories to have. So
they did though send me a photograph that our on-set photographer captured just when I was like taking off my helmet one day. That is beautiful. I mean, the ambiance of that like very dimly lit cave that I was in. It's just a moment in between the character and me. And that was a total surprise. I didn't know that that anyone had taken that or that I was going to get to see that. So that was pretty cool.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. It just sounds like such an amazing opportunity to get to be on set with you and all of these incredible people. So I am hoping that we will, and I think probably get to see a lot more of you as well, and The Mandalorian as it continues. And then, of course, we'll get to keep watching you on SEAL Team too. So, yeah. But where can everybody keep up with you and send you all of their amazing fan art?
I am on Twitter and on Instagram as Big E Swalls, BIGESWALLZ. You know.
I like it.
Yeah, so I mean that most people have mostly been sending me things on Instagram, and it's just so much fun. I love it. I can't get enough of it. So yeah, definitely send more.
That's how we all feel about The Mandalorian. Love it. Can't get enough of it. So be sure to check out The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and be sure to check out all of our interviews at MEA Worldwide. That's MEAWW.com. Until next time, I'm Elena Jordan. Have a good day.